2 weeks ago, a document reporting against BlushCrunch Studios co-owner and lead developer Rock Serpent made the rounds on Twitter after the post author Xtrail published a public version of a then private document that compiled his problematic behavior from 2020 to 2023. This video covers most of the information found within the document published by Xtrail alongside the new information that resurfaced after its initial inception from retelling of accounts within the Tower Heroes community specifically. Do not harass anyone mentioned within this video or go out of your way to act upon some sense of self-righteousness in Duck Adams' name or the victims' either, as that is not what this video is for. It is purely to make this information easier to grasp for the people who are not fully aware of the extent at which the allegations actually go and the poor PR management led by BlushCrunch Studios staff. A link to the documents and posts this video will use are in the description. Feel free to pause the video and read the screenshots if you haven't already. What exactly are the allegations? The allegations against Jakers, according to the document, are allegations of Jakers committing acts of grooming, sexual exploitation, sexting, and allegations of pedophilia during his time in the data brawl community back in 2020. This video will not cover the events in greater details than the document does, but there are a few key things to note from this specific part. Jakers would have allegedly groomed a 13-year-old individual, had his, at the time, partner send nude images of themselves, had very sexually charged conversations about a 15-year-old individual within the Data Brawl server while he was a moderator, all in the span of 5 months in 2020, leaving the community after being confronted out of guilt of being caught. The document goes into way greater detail than this video could put into words about how Jakers manipulated the truth within his 2 apology videos to reframe the original allegations as false and something else. Reading the document to understand the full picture is therefore necessary to be able to form your own opinion on the matter. One thing, however, that is extremely important and one of the main reasons why this video is being made now is the subject of which Jakers admits he drew CP. The original authors of the document mentioned the drawn CP Jakers drew without elaborating on it in the original version. They themselves lacking the evidence at the time of publishing the document a couple weeks ago, but still felt the need to include it considering the weight of the admission. Shortly after the document was posted, Gekbomb came forward posting a lengthy thread on Twitter where he brought up new information that the original post author was not aware about, that being that he was one of the victims Jakers drew CP of. In the thread, Gary claims that Jakers drew 2 pieces of CP in 2021 of him and another member when Gary was 15 years old. Gary provided a cropped picture of the alleged evidence alongside a new revelation that would showcase Quell, the head of BlushCrunch Studios, actually being aware of Jakers' illicit behavior before anyone else on the contributor team at the time knew. When Gary was asked if he could actually provide real evidence towards his accusations against Jakers and Quell, he had unfortunately provided 2 of the 3 pieces of CP Jakers had drawn, albeit censored for both his safety and the other unnamed victim's integrity. Gary did say, however, that there was a 3rd piece of NSFW Jakers had drawn of him and the other victim, this time depicting them in an even worse scenario where they were pregnant. That image has been lost for a couple years now. The validity of these images' truthfulness can also be confirmed by written admissions of their existence by 2 other people Jakers got intertwined with during that time period in 2021, those people being Emerald Kitty, also known as Octotrooper, and Salmonid, 2 extremely controversial artists that were banned from the Pixelbit community for having engaged in the sharing of their Tower Heroes NSFW to minors. Octotrooper is the person that Jakers has attempted to scapegoat for his justification of the drawn CP and NSFW art that he drew during his time contributing to Tower Heroes. In TLDR, Jakers knew of Octotrooper's controversial place within the community and hung around them despite knowing this, drawing the CP of Gary regardless of his awareness of their wrongdoing, shifting the blame towards him trying to please them, again playing the victim. Additionally, there's evidence that points to Quell having in fact known about the NSFW he was making before it was fully known to the contributor team. On June 4th, 2021, Quell starts a DM call with a contributor to vent about her recent experiences with Jakers after she had found out what he had been doing behind the rest of the team's back. The gist of their conversation can be summarized with her living a conflict because of recent frustrations of both wanting to separate from him but also keep him close at the same time because she was attached to him. And finally, her admitting to having known about the CP before the rest of the team knew. Said contributor went forward with this newfound information to Hilo, and their perspective of Jakers changed drastically following this, leading to Jakers' ban at the end of the month when solid concrete proof is shown. At the end of the month, when the Jakers evidence is brought to the rest of the contributor team, Quell DMs the same contributor and admits that she would not have wanted to actually come forward to Hilo with the evidence. A few months later, Quell reestablishes contact with Jakers, who at this point in time tries to join back the Tower Heroes community under a new alias, Traveling Moonrock. Gary confronted Quell directly about Jakers, knowing she had kept contact with him despite everything that has happened, and she said that he would make a new alliance, leave Tower Heroes completely, and move on. Within the next 2 years, Quell and Jakers began their own development studio, the both of them at that point being pretty much dissociated from Pixelbit Studios to make games together. Since that point, Jakers has not been seen acting out in a predatorial behavior. Unfortunately, the way in which the both of them handle extremely sensitive information, much like the document, is very problematic, as they have been downplaying the validity of the allegations and calling it petty drama, which brings us to now. Quell, knowing that her friend Jakers was a person with a very problematic past on Roblox and had been intertwined with accounts of Drawn CP and NSFW in 2 separate communities, enabled him to stay on the platform to make games with her. This, by itself, is one of the most irresponsible choices she could have made, since this is still relevant now because it was never resolved, like they said it was, because it was simply swept under the rug. Despite Jakers' good track record since they have worked on BlushCrunch games, having him continue to have a growing presence on Roblox is problematic. Jakers should not be on the platform after his repeated pattern of manipulation and sexual deviance in communities with a younger target demographic. Both Quell and Jakers are handling this situation very poorly. They have been shown to outright silence anyone who talks about it, and if they do not ban them, they force them to open a ticket where Quell will give a falsified account of the situation, claiming that the victims in question are on mutually good terms with Jakers, and that the people who wrote the document have a personal vendetta against Jakers since 2019, alongside Jakers being 17 at the time of the grooming allegations taking place. All of these claims are false, as the victims have all gone out of their way to explicitly say they do not in fact forgive Jakers at all, and are very obviously not on good terms with him. As for the original documents team's personal bias against Jakers, it makes sense as to why they would still be upset at him, because he has never actually properly given a conclusion to this and essentially shifted the blames towards them, rather than taking accountability and showcasing their perspective. Finally, as for Jakers being a minor at the time of the grooming allegations, this claim is also false, as Jakers was on the verge of turning 18 by the time the grooming case would have happened, and even despite being a minor at the time, the 4-year age gap between him and the victim is, at its core, the problem. Additionally, in the time of this video being written and its publication, Quell has gone on record to state that she did not know of the CP Jakers had drawn of Gary. This being a complete lie, considering we saw that during the call with the contributor in June of 2021, she was seen talking about it before Jakers was banned from Pixelbit. In conclusion, the severity of the allegations in the doc are not to be dismissed as petty drama, as this does involve felonies and general unprofessionalism from a relatively small upcoming dev team. Dandy's World's sudden spike in popularity is in one way impressive, but in another concerning, since the devs have yet to address the circumstances that will, if they do not properly verbalize it, only get worse as more and more people will speak out about their experiences regarding the both of them. If you are an avid BlushCrunch Studio fan, it would be wise to at least take the time to educate yourself on both perspectives rather than listen to just one. And considering how Jakers has made no effort to apply that logic, use common sense and treat this however you want. Downplaying these allegations, again, will perpetually add onto a fire that will never stop burning, and it is your duty to reflect and see how you will approach the studio's games following this information. A link to each of the documents and posts used for this video will be left in the description, and thanks again to everyone who was involved in the making of this video's collaboration. Thank you.